Hello, hope you all can hear me okay. I'm Lauren, I'm Head of Brand Advocacy at Made.com. I'm just going to caveat this presentation has no mention of genitalia. But to help calm my nerves, I am imagining you all naked, so there's a bit in there for me. I'm just going to put my glasses on just so I can imagine you all at the back there. Great. So I'm going to be talking today about how to, looking at some tips on building brand through advocacy. Before I kick off, for anyone that isn't familiar with Made.com, we are a furniture and homewares brand with a mission to make design accessible to all. Just a really quick skim through, 4 points, not 4 ones, of what I'm going to talk through. So we're going to look at a bit of brand advocacy versus influencers. What does it mean? It's very much rank word bingo, and we just throw these words around, but I'm going to put a little bit of thought behind that. I'm going to share 5 key tips which are very much experience-based. I've been at Made 9 months, and before that I was at Benefit Cosmetics Inhouse, leading the influencer strategy there. So some tips about how we've kind of helped build brands through advocacy. I'm going to do a very quick skim sales promo I've made of some campaign that we're working on at the moment that brings that in-house all together, and then I'm going to look at why at Made we work in-house and we don't work with agencies on this. Okay, so brand advocates versus influencers. When we think of the word influencer, this is what we think. It's such a dirty word. It was mentioned a lot on the panel earlier. Everyone's a bit like, oh. And actually, when I joined Made, my job title was going to be Head of Influencer Marketing. I was like, I just don't want that in my job title. We've all just see it so negatively. And I think because, like, what does influence mean? I think this quote sums it up, and I really wish it was my quote, but it's not. Influence is the outcome, it's not the purpose. I think when we think about trying to influence someone, that feels like it's quite deceiving. When we influence through credibility and trust, that's much more powerful. So that's why we steer away from using the word influencer at Made. And when we think about who brand advocates are, yes, influencers, content creators, whatever you want to call them, are a huge pool of that. They are the gateway to our customers and how we can share our brand message in their way. But we also have to consider customers. Emma on the panel earlier talked about using Olapic to pull in a lot of UGC. We do the same at Made. We are tagged in thousands and thousands of beautiful content every week from our customers, and they are really something that we are tapping into to see what more we can do there. And employees as well. We know that no one really trusts brands, but often you will trust the people behind the brand. At Made we have 600 staff, and we all work there because we love the brand. And I think that's often an untapped resource and something that gets a little bit washed over. So 5 tips, considerations to go through when looking at an advocacy program, strategy, whatever you want to call it. Popularity does not equal influence. We often are so caught up by follower numbers and thinking that just because something has got a lot of views or there's a big follower count, that's an influential piece of content. I know it was mentioned on the panel earlier about just because something's gone viral, it doesn't mean suddenly that person is influential, and it has to be in context as well. Brand fit is so important when looking at building out a strategy, particularly for the content creator section. We are incredibly fortunate at Made that we get a lot of people wanting to work with us in some capacity, and we turn down a lot of that because it just doesn't feel right. Victoria mentioned it on the panel earlier about the customers or the audience that are following those people that are talking about us, they're going to call it out if it's bollocks. It's detrimental to them and it's detrimental to us as a brand. So we have to look at, do they share the same brand values? What's their purpose? And what's their credibility? What's their kind of expertise? Does that really fit with us as well? I skipped over it earlier, but when we talk about content creators at Made, one of the big things is for us when we're discussing who we work with, we look at, if you stripped out social media, what else have they got behind them? Because if it's just the social media following, anyone can have that. So we look for people that are tastemakers, they're storytellers, they're real credible experts in their field. relationships for me is probably the single most important thing when we're looking at brand advocacy, who we work with. I went to a panel talk a couple of years ago, and they were talking about how you work with influencers specifically, and there was all these tools that they were talking about and the way to find people, but not a single person talked about human connection, and I think that's really important. The best coverage or the best pieces of work we've done are when we have had that relationship and we've built something. And again, I think we have to think about how the customer will see that content. If they see that there's been a bit of a relationship or long-term build up, they're much more likely to enjoy that content, resonate with it, and consider us as a brand. Value is a two-way street. We often can be quite guilty of trying to grab as much coverage as possible, or getting people to talk about us or push something, and we forget what we're giving back. When I was at Inhouse at Benefit Cosmetics, one of my passion points was building out our micro-influencer program. I was really key to be a brand that stood out beauty is ridiculous. There's so much competition. So I led a program where we, over the course of a year, we ran a series of workshops where we invited smaller influencers to learn things like photography skills, copywriting, to help upskill them. And very selfishly, it meant that they'd produce better content that resonated well, there was better engagement. But it also meant that they felt like we were giving something back, we were caring about them. And it means that when they're looking at what mascara they're picking up, it's just a little bit more chance that they're going to pick up that Benefit mascara and feature it. So I often think, especially when we're looking at customers as well, yes, we want them to be talking about us and posting pictures of us on social, but what else can we offer outside of that? It's really important to think about that as well. And my kind of final tip is around respecting the customer. We often are talking about these content creators and customers and employees, but I mentioned it earlier, they're the gateway to the customer. The customer is who ultimately we want to reach. And as much as we want the people that we see the best fit for us talking about us, we have to look at their audience as well and see how they're resonating with that content. What's the sentiment like? And not forget that the customer is ultimately who we want to reach. A very quick overview of a campaign we're working on at the moment. We launched it in September, and it's just going into its second iteration. So the focus, when we go back to our mission of making great design accessible, we running a campaign at the moment, Design Your Happy Place, because your home it's subjective what you love. Everyone's got a different take on what makes their happy place. What we've done with this campaign is we have worked with a variety of content creators that we have built long-term relationships with in advance of using them in the campaign, and we also pulled in a lot of UGC. I mentioned earlier we are so fortunate that we have beautiful UGC that we can use, and we've used it in a variety of different ways. We've used it in all our out-of-home, all our advertising, lots of on our website. It's blazoned all over the tube at the moment, so hopefully some of you might have spotted it. And that's great because it's owned content, but obviously we have to look at what's earned as well. So we worked with a variety of different content creators across 10 different markets that we operate in, and we looked at various different things. So again, going back to this credibility thing, we worked with a couple of interior designers. So we are product designers, we're not interior designers, so we collaborated with some interior designers to give someone in their community the chance to win a makeover. So this is 2LG, two lovely gays that we worked with. They are, interior goals, so amazing. And they came in and took two really standard box rooms and changed them into something quite special. And we were really fortunate because on the budget, we managed to do 2 rooms and not 1, so which, they were pretty cheap. Winners were pretty pleased with. Then, I don't know why I'm talking so fast, I'm conscious of time. So that's how we've kind of brought it to life, and I still think Made As a team, we're still in our infancy. I've got so many ideas of things I want us as a team to do and explore, and we really are just kind of starting out and finding our feet. But baby steps so far. But May took the decision back last year to bring all of our influence marketing, brand and advocacy in-house, and I was brought in to head up that team. I've tried to keep it quite, I tried to look at, be quite subjective about the kind of pros and cons of whether to bring teams in-house or work with an agency. I mean, I'm going to be pretty biased, I'm in-house. But there are some considerations of why I think it works for us. Time is a pretty important factor for us. We can be really reactive straight away. I saw a lot of benefit as well. When we had an idea, we could just jump on it. And some of our ideas, from the point of someone mentioning it to it being recorded, it going out, was less than an hour. And that's really important for us, especially if it's around tactical stuff as well. So that works for us. We also have insider knowledge. We're in the business. We know the company, we know the culture, and we're really on top of what our competitors are doing as well. So there is a little bit of kind of knowledge there that I think definitely helps us. Creativity. I see it a lot where I think brands are often seen as like pretty brain dead and don't have creative ideas, and I really challenge that. It's something I really champion the team to constantly think, if we've seen it before, we've seen someone else do it, I don't want to do it. It doesn't make sense for us. It's been and it's gone. And I think, yes, of course, when you're outsourcing more heads, more ideas, that's obviously a positive, but that doesn't mean that if you're hiring the right people in the team that you can't have creativity. I mentioned it before, relationships are really, really important for us. Yes, you can have platforms where you can find influencers, but I think going for a coffee with someone or having a chat or meeting them is far more important than just a generic email and hi, we love your content. So relationships is definitely a benefit that we play on in-house. And passion. I would argue that, yes, you can really care about a brand that you work on the account for, but would you have the same passion that someone is 100% dedicated to? Possibly not. You know, I work at Made because I absolutely love the brand. I hunted them down for a job. I really wanted to work there. And actually that resonates across the whole company. You know, I sit in meetings about trends and I'm so excited to be in those meetings. I don't know why my voice is breaking. So I think that, you know, that is a really, really important driver in a lot of the work we do. We do it because we really care. So just to recap on those kind of tips I shared, popularity doesn't always equal influence. It's not necessarily about follow account. Brand fit is incredibly important. Relationships are key. Always think about what you can offer as well, and always remember and respect the customer. Cool, thank you.